Welcome back to Wizard Supercoach. Finally got time today to watch the Melbourne versus North game, and it was pretty interesting in terms of Supercoach, if nothing else. Like, it wasn't the most entertaining or good quality game, but yeah, there was plenty there, I think, to look at. Melbourne were basically half strength, and they're missing Petrarca, Viney, Gawn, May, Fritsch, Salem, Langdon, like all those premiership stars. So it's hard to know who's going to be where once these guys return, and they all will be returning at some point. Luckily, though, Melbourne, they're far less Supercoach relevant than North. So I based the video on the first three quarters before all the VFL reserve types started coming on, and those better players started to disappear, because really we're not going to read too much into that. We want to see who's in the A team now this close to the season. Melbourne, by the end of those three quarters, I think they were about 3 goals ahead, and yeah, they were doing it pretty easy by then. I think probably felt like they were further ahead than 3 goals, but that's not a great sign for North, given that they were a lot closer to full strength. I think they're only missing a couple. Obviously, we can't take too much out of practice games, but yeah, it does look like North still fall into that habit where the game plan becomes just bomb it on Larky's head and hope for the best. So as usual, like with these pre-season report videos, I'm only really looking for role, like job security, game time, things like that. So yeah, I'm not too interested if like a primo looked quiet or whatever, because they got no reason to be trying too hard in a practice game if they're already entrenched in the 22. So with that in mind, I'll start with Melbourne. The CBAs look to be Oliver, Rivers, Pickett, Langford and Laurie. Rivers, he looked great in there, actually. I didn't realise how good he could be in the middle, but it's hard to see him keeping that high percentage of CBAs with Petrarca and Viney back in the team, and that's very close now, I think. So, you think he'd drop down to the fourth man, and that's not the worst, because, Melbourne, they're not a closed shop like some other clubs like Gold Coast and Brisbane and Port and that. So, you can still score decent as the fourth man, but will he score enough to make him viable? That's the question for me. And I don't think I'll be picking him just based on that. But, if we get some kind of long-term injury, and I'm not hoping for it, we don't like those, to one of those three above him, then he might be a pick. But even then, like, I'm not totally sold on it either. Speaking of those guys, Oliver, who, he got the most CBAs, I'd say, he impressed me a lot today. So he didn't get 40 disposals or anything like that, although he did get quite a bit of it. But he just looked really clean again, like at ground level, super quick hands, and his tackling intent looked like it was back. And I don't think we really saw that last year as much as we normally would. The only slight worry for me is that he looked a little bit handball happy and like hesitant to kick the ball sometimes, but it was still really good signs. Langford looks like he's going to be a star, and he got plenty of CBAs as well. I think, though, he's another one who's surely going to be pushed down the order with those first choice mids returning, but I think he did well enough when he was out of the guts to suggest that he'll be fine to still score what we need. Like, even when I think he was playing half forward, and he kind of just follows the ball like a lot of others do, and yeah, he was in everything. Like, I'm pretty confident on picking him. If he's named in round 1, then yeah, he's going to be a good one. Lindsay played on the wing, and I didn't notice him too much. Like, obviously I noticed him enough to know he was on the wing because he was right in front of the camera when it would zoom in on the CBAs. But outside of that, I didn't really see him much, and it's pretty doubtful he's going to keep that spot when Langdon comes back. So yeah, not good for anyone that was thinking of picking Lindsay. I thought, I don't know how to say it, is it Moniz Wakefield? I thought he was decent, actually, but as we found out today in the news, he actually did his ACL, I think, later in that game. So it must have been in one of the later quarters, because I didn't see it. But yeah, it's pretty horrible. Poor kid. Speaking of kids, I like the look of big curly Jefferson up forward. And yeah, we love a good forward rookie or potential rookie in the game. he shouldn't have too much competition for a spot, I think, given Melbourne's lack of key forwards, or at least lack of quality key forwards. Petty played defence today too, so hopefully that's where he stays and that whole 2-year experiment is over, because that was ridiculous. And I'm glad the Crom didn't pay up massive to get Petty. Just saying. But yeah, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on Jefferson now, just given his performance today. He looked quite good, you know. There's just, yeah, as I said, there's not that much competition up there. Like, the only one I'd really lock in right now would be JVR. So, and he's going to be important. I'll get to him in a second, but yeah, Campbell was the first ruck in Gawn's absence, obviously. Now, the reason why JVR is important is because he chopped out, and he was doing that last year for Gawn, and he's pretty good in there for his size, I think. And if you have a look at his ruck scores last year, when Gawn was out of the team and JVR was playing like first ruck in a few games, or yeah, he had the majority of the CBAs over Petty, he actually didn't get dunked on. Like, they weren't scoring massive scores on him or anything. So it's interesting because he's quite undersized to be a ruckman. But yeah, that's good, because that means that it's likely Gawn will stay solo, and that temptation to play Campbell will probably be less. It could be wrong, because Goodwin does like to have terrorist tendencies sometimes, but yeah, I'm pretty confident Gawn will still be solo, and JVR will help that. Campbell did do well against Cherry though, and you know, if Gawn was to get injured long enough, then Campbell would be a pretty reliable trade-in. I think he'd be good for like 80, 90 points a week at least. I do obviously hope that Gawn doesn't get injured, as he's my favourite player outside the Crom, and obviously don't like seeing anyone get injured. Yeah, it's horrible. So, in terms of the kick-ins, I saw Bowie take all of them, I think. I may have missed some, but yeah, that's just what I saw. May obviously will return. He got the majority last year. He'll probably get that again. Not that it's really Supercoach relevant though. And the goals were 3 to Sharp, who he looked pretty lively up forward, but he's got that anti-Supercoach forward pocket role. I mean, keep an eye on him, but yeah, not great. I don't even know what he's priced at, actually. I think he's a rookie price, but if he's not, then definitely don't even bother keeping an eye on him. Yeah, they didn't have like Chandler or who's the other one, like Spargo or any of those guys playing, so he may not even get a gig round one. 2 goals to Pickett and JVR, and then 1 each to Campbell, Sparrow, Woden, Curly Jefferson, my man, and I think there was another one, but I missed it. I didn't see who that was. So I'll move on to North now, who are obviously more Supercoach relevant. They look pretty up and down. There was a bit like last year. There was patches where they looked $1 million out of the middle. Like, they'd get a centre bounce and chain a couple of handballs and then have a shot at goal, and it was great. But for the majority, they kind of looked a bit confused or something. I don't know. Yeah, they're basically reliant, I think, on their midfield to win the stoppages. If they're not winning those, they're cooked. Like, there's not a lot of successful link-up going from defence to the forward line that I can see, but they are getting better at least. And, you know, as I say, it's not strictly Supercoach relevant, but you want to understand the game and what teams are doing, because different play styles apply to Supercoach differently, I think. So the main guys in there that were getting the CBAs, it was Sheasel, LDU, Powell, Phillips and Parker. Simpkin didn't play, but I'm guessing he would probably be the 4th man at a minimum, which pushes Phillips and Parker down. Parker had quite a bit of time in the guts. He didn't get the ball much though, from what I saw, and I think it's because he's more suited to those like slower repeat stoppage kind of games, and you don't really get that in pre-season. It's more open. But we do know that North, the way they play, they either seem to get the quick break or the opposition gets a quick break and they're away. They're not really that repeat stoppage kind of team, so I don't think that's going to play into Parker's hands really. And unfortunately, when he was like sitting half forward or wherever he was, I didn't really notice him then either. Now I know let's call him an older gentleman, and there's nothing for him really to prove in a game like this, but I just can't really see him being a pick at this rate. He seems like more of an on-field coach or whatever you want to call it. I just smell a trap here. To be honest, it's my spidey sense tingling, the gut feel, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I'm not about it. Sheasel was cruising in there. He's worth the money for sure. It's just a case of whether that price, the 600k plus, if that fits in your structure. So, if it doesn't though, I would be trying everything to force it. It's going to be a long year watching him score tons at will without him in your team. I can tell you that. I'd rather just pay up and deal with it, Yeah, that said, just on structure and stuff, I might talk about that a little bit at the end of the video. LDU in the guts, obviously. He actually looked like he was trying, which is unusual. He's kind of known for doing nothing in those practice games. Could this be a sign maybe that he's going to have a big year? I don't know, but he did look good. Power as well, he was in the middle, plenty of CBAs, but I don't know if he's going to keep them once Simpkins back. And we know Clarko loves a good shuffle at any point in the season. I owned him last year and he was good to begin with, and the frustrating thing is he'd have a good run of games with high CBAs and then he'd have like next to none the next week, and then he'd go back up again, and post-buy they pretty much dried up completely, and he had to go. I had to trade him out, but it's hard to trust him after that. But he is said to be the standout of the club this pre-season, so who knows? Like, admittedly, he does look different just from watching him in the game. Just more confidence around the ball or something. He doesn't go missing for large periods like he normally would, but I don't know. As I said, it's hard to trust him, so at least keep an eye on him. I will be. Cherry seemed to have his hands full with Campbell, I think. I don't know if that means Campbell's better than we thought, or Cherry was just taking it easy or whatever. He definitely didn't dominate him or anything like I thought he would, and I noticed Cherry wasn't tackling as much, or at least that's what it seemed like. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. Let me know in the comments. I like it when you viewers challenge me on points and stuff. So let me know what you think Cherry was like. But I guess it's kind of like Parker, like the lower pressure in practice games, less stoppages, that kind of thing. The open play, it doesn't really suit him. He likes those stoppages and chance to tackle. But, for that price that he is, you'd want to be absolutely sure that that's all it is, and that he's not changed his gameplay, like his game style or whatever you want to call it. Caleb Daniel, though, he is the biggest lock still. He should be 100% owned. If you don't pick him at the moment, I don't even know why you're playing, but he's got the best Supercoach role in the game, and that's that North ball thing it's called. And he had the ball on a string again, so he takes the kick-ins, he wanders around the halfback completely unchecked, doing whatever he wants, and, he's involved in most attacking plays. He kicked a goal. He just kind of does what he wants. So, as far as I'm concerned, lock him in and throw away the key. I don't think Fisher coming back is going to hurt him either. Like, who would you rather have the ball in the hands of? Like, Daniel's a great kick. Fisher's pretty suspect. Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy one. While Daniel was bloody good, the same can't be said for McKercher, in my opinion. He seems to have that half forward and wing split, which it's not exactly ideal for Supercoach. Some can make it work, but yeah, generally it's not great. He was involved in quite a few forward entries, but are there going to be as many of them in the real thing as well? Like, obviously practice games, Melbourne would be putting less pressure on and stuff, so they're going to get more inside 50s, you would think. So I wouldn't want to be relying on that at all if I was to own him, and I probably won't. His decision making today, it looked way off. Normally it's pretty good, but it was almost as if he was trying to ignore the easy option and try and take on the hard one just because he has got a good kick, and it just wasn't paying off. Like, he'd ignore guys in space to try and hit the low percentage kick. Obviously I don't play AFL, I never have, but I massively believe that you just play to percentages in footy, so I guess that's why he's playing AFL though and I'm not. Anyway, another one I noticed was Hansen. Is it Hansen or Hansen Jr.? Hansen Jr. So he looked really, really good in the intra-club match. He was everywhere and stuff, and then today he looked pretty bad. So he didn't get many touches, and I noticed that just about all of them were some kind of turnover. So that was a bit disappointing because he'd put himself kind of on the watch list. I know small forward for North Melbourne, it's not really screaming pick me in itself, but it's hard to ignore. He did look good, but this is why these pre-season games and that you can't read too much into them. I mean, you can perform really good in an intra-club, and then you come up against opposition the next week and different story. The other one, and he wasn't even out there, but I was disappointed that Whitlock wasn't in the A team at all. He was another one that had a really good performance in the intra-club, and he was on my watch list big time. And he's got that nice defender forward DPP, and I was hoping to line him up with Patton at the other end. So it would have been a nice link there. And I don't know if many people would have went down that road, but I can't do it now, I think, because he's clearly out of the picture, and it's too close to the season. I can't see him getting back in it. So yeah, I don't know, what can you do? So yeah, the goals for North, 3 to Larkey, 2 to Curtis, and 1 each for Daniel, Phillips, and Darling. Darling played second ruck as well, and to be honest, he didn't look too bad today. But again, it's a pre-season game. We saw enough last year to suggest that he's cooked. But that said, if anyone remembers watching Tex in 2020, and even I thought that he was finished, and then the next few years were like career best. So you just never know. But with that said, I'm not suggesting that Darling is going to have career best years or anything like that. So that's about it really in terms of that game. I've just realised that I've spoken for 17 minutes about two teams that I don't even support. I feel sorry for my wife. She must have to put up with a fair bit of it. But yeah. Yeah, thanks for watching. Keep liking, commenting, subscribing, things like that. Yeah, it's good. As I said, I like the comments, and I really like when people push back on certain points that I make. That's how we learn. So yeah, it's a really good thing. So keep that up. I can't wait to see more games. We're getting so close to the season now, and yeah, it's really tempting to start tinkering with the team or over tinker with the team. I think just based on what we're seeing, you just got to resist. You got to remember these are practice games. You do your research in the in the proper pre-season before the practice games and that for a reason. And every single year we see it, and I've been guilty of it. We get sucked in by practice game performances and stuff, and yeah, it doesn't end well. I just remember too that point that I made before about saying I'd talk about structure. I might actually do a separate video about that, but the main gist of that was I'm kind of running two different teams at the moment, and they're completely conflicting strategies. So there's a team I'm running that's full value, and it probably is too much value based, and then the other one I'm running is probably closer to guns and rookies. So yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's what philosophy do you go with? And yeah, I mean, it's this time of year. It's really hard. It's tempting to go all value and stuff, but we know that if you go too much, it doesn't work out. You can really overdo it. I think as well, the thing I keep trying to tell myself is it's really important to not base your team on a strategy. I think it would be not so smart to sit there and say, okay, I'm going all value picks, and then you force yourself into picking players that you're not necessarily keen on just because they fit the strategy. I think the best thing to do is just, have your watch list, your players you're interested in. You can obviously, tailor it a bit to the strategy, but don't let the strategy dictate who you pick, I think. So, you want to keep watching those players and decide who's good and stuff, and who you're happy with, and then see where it falls from there. As I said, I'll do a full video on this, I think, and I'll do a bit of a team update and that kind of thing. Yeah, they're things that you got to think about, I think, and work out this time of year. But yeah, I'll leave it for that video, otherwise I'll be here all night. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and should be the GWS preview coming up next if I get time. But yeah, Cheers, and see you in tomorrow's video.